Alright, hold on.
Okay, so this is blurry, sorry, but this is the only book cover I could find online. This is Cruel and Tender by Martin Crimp, and it's a play, so keep that in mind. This is a picture from the play when they did it at the Canadian stage. And so pictured here is Amelia, and then this is her husband, the general, and then here's the mistress that he brings home. So I'll just go through like a basic plot overview, which we kind of already explained, but I'll explain it again. So this takes place during the War on Terror, so during the present. And so he's a general, and he's off at war, and she's a son that's also at war named Jonathan. And so he comes back home with this lady, and she's really mad about it. She's like, what are you doing? Even though she's been cheating on him the whole time. And so he's like, but you've been cheating on me? And she's like, well, at least I told you. And so, anyway, so he goes back to war, and then she tells her son, who's still there, she's like, oh, like, if you give him this perfume and put it underneath his pillow and he smells it, he'll miss me. And so then he won't want this lady anymore. So he puts it underneath the pillow, and then he gets really sick. And it's, like, implied that he dies, but no one actually knows for sure if he died. And so Jonathan comes home, and he tells his mom, he's like, oh, my God, like, you're going to kill my dad. So then she commits suicide. And that's the plot review. But basically, she, like, her whole view of this is, like, he can have more than one wife. Like, I don't see the big deal. And, like, she doesn't want him off at war, but she's very much, like, men are supposed to fight, blah, blah, blah. So, I was going to say, like, the big, like, obvious themes are, like, jealousy and power through, like, relationships and the war. But I have three, like, bigger themes that I've put together. So the first one I have as the media. And so we ourselves are in charge of creating, like, our own view and, like, the values by which we live by. And so basically, like, they're talking about, obviously there's media with the war on terror going on, and then Jonathan comes home and is, like, talking to his mom about what's going on in the war and shapes her view, kind of like what we've been talking about with the last thing with the shaper, like how he shapes it, what's going on, and it's not necessarily, like, fact or actually true, and that, like, Jonathan is skewing the reality of what's going on to benefit his own agenda. And that's kind of what the media does. And then the next one is gender roles. And so there's traditional gender roles presented within it. Obviously, we have men going off to fight, and then we have a woman at home. And so Amelia, who's the main character, the wife, she kind of, like, diminishes those gender roles by retaliating in, like, a violent manner by accidentally poisoning him. But so that was, like, the contrast, and then the mistress also contrasts her and, like, how we view gender roles now than we did back then. So she contrasts that by thinking, like, men are supposed to go fight, like, I don't understand the big deal, like, you can have more than one wife. And then another thing is, when you read the play, you kind of take side with the general, even though he's been cheating on her too, but, like, you view Amelia badly. So it kind of shows how we view it differently and how, like, almost like a patriarchy kind of thing. And then for heroism, we have, like, the general takes pride in those violent acts, and he tells his son at the end that he's purified the world for him through, like, all of the killing. And so the next question we have is, like, is terrorism and heroism linked together societally, like, in a contemporary way? And then if we would put it in the BL curriculum, I wouldn't say so. I don't think it's necessarily, like, that interesting to read, especially, like, as someone who is in theater. Like, I even think the play's boring. But I was reading online that they were talking about, like, the difference between a tragedy and something called a problem play, which was created, like, in the 19th century, I think. And so they were talking about how it's not a tragedy, but a problem play because it leaves things open-ended and, like, open for discussion by, like, not saying that he's died for sure. So then you can talk about social ills and all of that. So